which is mostly to do with the set of rules and policies and procedures to make sure that the individual investor, his particular rights are protected, or the company's management is acting in such a way that it benefits the shareholders. So all those things more to reduce the gap between the shareholders and the management of the company. So these are some of the things that we will be covering as a part of this corporate governance aspect. So let's look at a few of these elements. It is one of the most essential things for a companies to operate efficiently, because most of these companies, they attract funds from individual shareholders who do not play any big role in the day-to-day operations of the firm. So, but they have a share in the profits. So to make sure that the company is performing very well in line with the expectations of the shareholders, it has to have a set of corporate governance practices. So that's the reason we say this is one of the most important aspects from a company's perspective if it has to work very efficiently. Though I may not say that the existence of corporate governance will bring profits, but the other way I like to put it is, if the corporate governance is not present properly, or it is ineffective in a particular company, it can threaten the very existence. Obviously, if it is good, it can result in increasing in the value, but only corporate governance may not increase the value in isolation. Probably it is like corporate governance along with the proper business planning, all these things will definitely boost up the value of the firm, but all the other things in place, but corporate governance is lacking, it can pull down the value of the firm and it can even threaten the very existence of the firm. That's the reason whenever we talk about corporate governance, the major focus is to resolve the conflicts between the management and the shareholders. Because shareholders are the people who are the investors in the firm in the form of shares, whereas when we look at the management, they may or may not be possessing any number of shares of the company. They are employees who are being hired to do the day-to-day operations of the business. So there is likely to be a kind of a conflict of interest between these two sets of parties, and the corporate governance, the rules have to be directed towards the individual shareholders rather than towards the interests of the company. So, and again, I cannot come out with one set of corporate governance practices uniquely for every company, because it depends on the legal environment in the country, the culture of the organization, the industry in which the company is operating. But of course, there are a good set of rules which can be commonalized across the industries, across the countries. So at least those are some of the things which every company need to stick to, and of course anything that is specific to that to its own business, even those things have to be incorporated as a part of the typical corporate governance mechanism. Whenever we talk about effective corporate governance, we look at it from the two dimensions, the key objectives. Whenever I say a company has implemented an effective corporate governance practice, it should target to reduce the conflict of interest between the shareholders and the management. The key objective, any conflict of interest existing between these two parties, the management as well as the shareholders, try to reduce it to whatever extent possible. That is one of the key objectives of effective corporate governance, because these are the investors, whereas these generally are the employees, but employees with power. So employees want to execute tasks which are of their liking, whereas the investors want the employees to perform those tasks which will benefit them. That is what is the main reason for a conflict of interest. So any corporate governance practice that is set up in the company should be targeting towards removing or even reducing this kind of a conflict of interest between the parties, and the usage of the company's assets to the best interests of the investors. Let's say the company's assets are there, could be in the form of fixed assets, the buildings, the plant, the machineries, the vehicles. So those are all company's assets. Use them not for the personal purposes of the managers and the executives, but let them be used for the benefit of the individual investors. So those are the key objectives with which the corporate governance practice takes off. And so as a part of effective corporate governance mechanism, we see that the company should define what all rights the shareholders have, in what all aspects can they question the management, what is the kind of right they have with respect to the operations of the company. That entire thing needs to be documented as a part of the corporate governance process. It also should talk about overseeing responsibilities of the managers. How do the managers what are the responsibilities of the managers, the board of directors. Document that entire set of roles and responsibilities at each of the layer and communicate that to every shareholder, because whenever we use the word board of directors, it is that group of people who are appointed for each company, and their main role is primarily to take decisions or act on behalf of individual shareholders. So they are not a part of the management. They are the ones who are representing the individual shareholders. So obvious, but people who know how the businesses work. So very clearly the plan should talk about, the corporate governance plan should talk about what are the roles and responsibilities of the managers, the board of directors, and any other stakeholders that are involved with the firm. And similarly, the accountabilities of various sets of people, okay, for what all things managers are accountable for, the board is accountable for, and what are the metrics? What are the metrics that define the accountabilities of each of these participants in their roles and responsibilities? And you make sure that every deal is treated in a fair and equitable manner between the shareholders, the managers,